Today on Armchair Operator Guns and Gear Reviews, I got another versus video for y'all. It's been a minute, but today we're going to do a versus. Today's versus is going to feature two top quality race pistols with well-established pedigrees. Today we're going to look at the Beretta 92X Performance, and we're going to put it up against the SIG 226 X5 Classic. Let's get into it.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love.
What's going on, y'all? It's your big homie, the Armchair Operator, and welcome to today's program. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope you find this video information useful and entertaining. And if you're coming back to the channel, thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me as I talk about these products. I definitely do appreciate you. Now, without further ado, let's get down to it, right? So, like I said in the intro, today we're going to do a versus video. We're going to put the Beretta 92X Performance up against the SIG 226 X5 Classic. I'm sorry. So I recently did a review on the Beretta 92X Performance. So if you want to see that video, definitely check that out. I will leave a link to the video. I'll probably put it in the pinned comments so that way it's easier to find. And I also did a review on the Beretta 226 X5. And I also put that video in the pinned comments so that way you can check it out. So if you're not familiar with my versus videos, basically I put two near peer guns together to see how they mesh up against one another in terms of features, you know, ergonomics, portability, concealability, form-fit function, the whole 9 yards, MSRP. And the whole point of this is just to give you all an idea of what's out there and how they compare to one another. So that way, the next time you're shopping for your next race pistol, or whatever type of pistol or firearm that you're looking for, you have a more informed, you can go into the store more informed and have a better idea as to which one you might want. All right, so whichever particular pistol wins or loses, if your favorite pistol win, like, let's put it like this, whichever one you pick, you win. Like I said, this is just my opinion, my interpretation of these two particular guns and how they relate to each other. So at the end of the day, it's your money. So that way you just make whatever decision that you feel as though is best for you and your budget and your aesthetics. All right, so enough talking. We're going to head on over to the review space and we're going to take a look at these two pistols and see how they relate to one another. And then after we're done the verses, I'm going to give you my operator's pick. All right, so let's get down to business. All right, y'all, welcome to the review space. As you can see, we got the Beretta 92X Performance on the left and we got the SIG P226 X5 on the right. But before we dive into anything, we're going to verify clear. So as you can see, that particular chamber is empty. The magazine is empty and this gun is verified clear. Okay, and also the SIG, as you can see, that chamber is empty. Magazine is empty. This gun is also verified clear. And we are filming in a safe and controlled environment. There isn't any live ammunition anywhere in the review space. Okay, so now let's talk about the versus. All right, so we're going to change it up just a little bit. We're going to take out the category of accessories. Reason being, I don't have all of the accessories that come with the 92X. I mean, if it's similar to the M9 series, I can pretty much guess at what it is. But just to keep things simple and to keep it fair, since I don't have all the stuff, we're just going to omit that category. That said, we're going to look at the features, the ammo capacity out of the box, ergonomics, portability and concealability, shootability and reliability, disassembly for field stripping and maintenance, aftermarket support, MSRP and the value for your money. All right, so and also the features category is going to be broken down into its own subcategories, which will include the sights, the slide serrations, accessory rail, whether or not the firearm is ambidextrous, which ambidextrous components we're talking about, the trigger itself, is the gun truly optics ready, the features on the barrel itself, and its modularity. All right, so without further ado, we're going to start where I generally start at, and we're going to take a look at the features. All right, so features. First thing we're going to do is going to look at the sights between the two pistols. Okay, so as you can see, they basically have the same sight picture. We have both guns have blacked out rear sights, which are both adjustable for elevation and windage, and they have a fiber optic front sight. Now the Beretta has a red fiber optic front sight. I don't know if you can see that there. Yeah, red fiber optic sight, while the SIG has a green fiber optic sight. And of course, you can always change the fiber optic rods to whatever you like, but they basically have the same sighting setup as far as you know, for all intents and purposes, they have the same sighting setup. So they're going to get a tie for the sights. Next, we're going to move down to the slide serrations. So the slide serrations on the 92X are actually a bit more aggressive than your standard 92 FS or even your M9s. I like the fact that you have a good amount of texture in the front and in the back here. Whereas the 226, while it has slide serrations both in the front and the rear, and you can do press checks, right? The slide serrations for the Beretta are just more aggressive. So I have to give the slide serrations over to the Beretta. Both pistols have a M1913 Picatinny rail. This has the SIG has an extra rail slot over the Beretta, but that's no real advantage if you ask me. So they basically get a tie for that. Moving on to ambidextrous components. Both pistols have ambidextrous frame mounted safeties. As you can see, here's the SIG and here's the Beretta. So in terms of ambidextrousness, that's the way you want to call it, they pretty much are the same. So they will basically get a tie for that. Now the trigger. Here's one thing that's going to set them apart. The trigger in the 226 X5, in my opinion, is superior. Not only is it lighter, but it also has a shorter reset. So let's compare the triggers. This gun has a double action, single action trigger, right? Just like all your standard 92 style series Beretta handguns. But let's check the pull weight. So we have it in single action mode right now. So let's do that real quick. And that trigger break is a little over 3 pounds, just before 3.5 pounds. So let's do that one more time. Yep, a little over 3 pounds. Okay, now let's look at the X5 here. So we're going to do that. Just under 3 pounds. See, now we're going to do it again. Just for consistency's sake. Oh, about 2.5 pounds. If you can see that, about 2.5 pound trigger pull. So not only that, the trigger on the X5 is adjustable, and I have adjustable for both length of pull as well as pull weight, and plus you can even change the shoe. So all in all, even though I do like the double action, single action trigger style of the 92X Performance, the 226 X5 just has a superior single action trigger. So I will give the X5 the point for the trigger. Now, let's go to optics ready. Clearly, this particular gun is not optics cut at all, so it doesn't get a point there no matter how you cut it. This particular gun has a plate for your optic. Okay, so it is optics cut. It doesn't come with any plates, but you can mount your SIG Romeo style optics and your Leupold Delta Point optics directly to the slide without a plate, but unfortunately you'll lose your rear sight. Point of the matter is, this particular gun is optics ready. This one is not, so this one gets the point for being optics ready. Now, let's talk about the features of the barrel. I mean, I believe this is a standard M92 style barrel. You know, standard barrel, nothing special. It's an accurate barrel, it's a good barrel, but it doesn't have any additional features. This particular gun has a match grade bull barrel, as you can see there. So, just got a little bit of an extra feature. So, the X5 will get that particular point, and neither gun is modular. So, we just want to knock that out right now. So, for basically what that means is the as features category go to the SIG P226 X5 Classic. Now, let's move on to ammo capacity. All right, so now we're going to talk about ammo capacity out of the box. And basically, if you add up the amount of rounds that you can carry on your person with all the magazines that comes with your firearm, that's how we determine ammo capacity out of the box. So your Beretta 92X Performance, you basically get 3 magazines. Even though this particular one is from my M9A4, I'm just using this in place for the 92X magazine since I only have the 2 with this particular pistol, but it comes with 3. These are 15 round magazines, and that's pretty much what you get out of the box. And these particular magazines look like they were dimpled so that they can only hold 15. But I would imagine that these could easily support 18 round magazines without the dimples. So there you go with that. Now the 226 X5 comes with 3 18 round magazines. So, I mean, it's pretty much obvious. 3 18 round magazines versus 3 15 rounders. The SIG is going to get the ammo capacity point. And with that out of the way, let's move on over to ergonomics. All right, so now we're going to talk about ergonomics. So ergonomically speaking, both guns feel good in the hand. The Beretta, one criticism that I do have about the Beretta is the grip. Now, under most conditions, the grip is not really a big deal. But on this, it feels like this particular gun should have a mag well or something. Especially with it being a competition-oriented gun, you would think that they would have a magazine well on the pistol. Now, the good thing about the Berettas is that these grip panels can be replaced. So the 92X does have the wraparound grip panels that come with it, like your standard M9s and so on and so forth. So that's cool. That being said, the texture on this particular panel is not very aggressive. And quite frankly, this gun feels kind of slick in the hand when I was running it on the range. I mean, we got good texture on the front of the grip and also on the back strap. So that's cool. But the gun still feels relatively slick. Now, they do give you a gas pedal, which is cool. The only thing about it is this gas pedal is not very comfortable to use. I mean, it's very, you can still use it to drive it forward to keep the muzzle where it needs to be, but it's not very comfortable, at least not to me. So, but I will say that they gave you a little bit more of an undercut here for the trigger guard. That's really neat. And they also added this little particular cut right here in the frame. So in case if you wanted to wrap your finger up underneath there like so and push on forward on the gas pedal, you could do that and give yourself a little pinch here to take advantage of that gas pedal. So you do have that. Now, as far as the 226 X5 go, these grip panels they don't look it, but they are a bit more aggressive than these. So between that and then of course you have a decent amount of texture up here on the front. And also, unlike the 92X Performance, where you really can't ride the safety on this, you can ride the safeties on the SIG a lot easier to help keep the keep the pistol under control. Now, this particular X5, the X5 Classic, just has like your standard takedown lever, but it does have a bit of a nub here, so you can kind of use it as a gas pedal, but not really. I mean, it works. It gives you a memory pad. It gives you a little something, which I think is cool. It may not be on the level of the Beretta 92X or even the X5 Legion version of this particular gun, but it's something. But all in all, I think with this particular, now this particular gun has the magazine well installed on it already. So it has a mag well, which does help. But I also like the shape of this particular grip versus the flat backstrap of the 92 Performance. So, like I said, all in all, because of the fact that I can ride the safety and this has better texture overall, I have to give the ergonomics point over to the 226X5. Now, let's talk about portability and concealability. Now we're going to talk about portability and concealability. So right off the hop, neither one of these guns are concealed carry guns, and neither one of these guns stands out over the other in terms of concealment. So we're not going to award any points for that category. We're just going to call that a tie. And as far as portability, now here's where it gets a little different. So we're going to take the dry weight of each pistol and compare the two, all right? Dry weight meaning magazine inserted, unloaded. So first up, 92X. So not sure if you can see that, but the 92X comes in at 48.29 ounces. Okay, let's look at the 226X5. The 226X5 comes in at 46.49 ounces. So it's just ever so slightly lighter than that of the 92X Performance. So in terms of sheer weight, this is a lighter gun. So therefore, as far as portability goes, this particular gun wins the point. Although I will say that in the hand, they don't feel all that much different from one another weight-wise. So it was really surprising to me to learn that this particular pistol is actually heavier than this one. So, but all in all, the 226X5 wins the portability point. Now we go to shootability and reliability. Next, we're going to talk about shootability and reliability. So right off the hop, both guns have been reliable for me throughout, so they both were going to get a point there. So to talk about shootability, I'm going to put some of the shooting footage from both pistols up on the screen now. So what I will say that both guns are fun to shoot. Both guns have great triggers. Both guns are accurate. Both guns feel pretty damn good in the hand. However, throughout all of my testing, and even though it was pretty close, a pretty close one to call, I have to say that the 92X Performance just edged out the 226X5 by just a hair. And that's only because on a couple of those rounds, so to speak, I threw a couple of the shots from like on the 226X5 where they just missed the target entirely. And even though it has a softer trigger, even though it has better ergonomics, at least in my opinion, and a soft recoil impulse, I just ran the 92X Performance just a little bit better. And I think that may have a lot to do with the gas pedal that the 92X Performance has. Whereas at least this iteration of the X5, the 226X5, doesn't really have the pronounced gas pedal that you see on the 226X5 Legion. So all in all, and though it does pain me a little bit to say this, I gotta give the shootability point over to the 92X Performance. Now let's talk about the disassembly for maintenance. All right, so now on the disassembly for maintenance. Now, honestly, both guns pretty much take down almost the same way. They have a takedown lever system. You lock the slide to the rear, rotate the lever down, let the slide go home, and just slide it right off their respective frames. It's basically the same process. The only slight difference comes into play with the recoil system on both pistols. This particular gun has that little buffer spring behind the actual main recoil spring, while this doesn't. So, I mean, as far as field stripping goes, it's a tie. I mean, they basically take down the exact same way. So, from there, we're going to move over to aftermarket support. And really, when it comes to aftermarket support, they don't really, one doesn't stand above the other one, at least in my opinion. The SIG P226 has been out for decades. So you can find magazines for it, you can find holsters for it, you can find a bunch of different stuff for the 226, as well as the Beretta. Now, I mean, same thing with the magazines and holsters options and so on and so forth. Also, replaceable grip panels. I mean, you could get replaceable grip panels for the 226. You could get replaceable grip panels for the Beretta. So, I mean, honestly, at least to me, in my opinion, they're pretty much on par with one another. So, I'll just give each particular gun a point for that category. And as far as MSRP goes, all right, so here's the interesting thing. The 92X Performance, this particular gun, if it had the optics cuts, would essentially be the carry optics model. I think that this is maybe the older version of that particular gun, obviously because it's not optic cut. And I say that because the defensive series of the 92X Performance doesn't have the rail. But anywho, if you go by the carry optics version of this, that MSRP is just south of $1,800. Whereas the MSRP of the X5 Classic here is roughly $2,200 to $2,300. So this gun is the cheaper gun versus the 226 X5. So clearly the 92X Performance is going to win the MSRP category because it's several $100s cheaper. And now that brings us to the last portion of this versus, which is the value for the money. And this, honestly, y'all, this one was kind of tough. And I say that because both guns are outstanding shooters. Both guns have a lot of great features. Both guns are expensive as hell. So, I mean, if you want to talk about their respective price points, like just to say it, this is an $1,800 gun. This is something that I was thinking about quite a lot as I was going over the actual bullet points for each point of comparison. And if I were to use my M9A4 as a reference, the M9A4 MSRP is a roughly $1,100, right? This particular pistol is just south of $1,800. So is this a $600 upgrade over the M9? I'm saying if the M9 was $1,200, it's roughly around $1,200 MSRP. My point is this a $600 upgrade in terms of over the M9A4? And for that answer, I would say it is, for two reasons: the weight of the pistol and the gas pedal and things like that. The actual intent of this pistol is more so geared for racing, period. That's why you got that heavier Brigadier style slide. You have this all steel frame, this all steel gun, the robust frame, the gas pedal, the whole 9 yards. So is this a $600 upgrade over the M9A4? I would say yes. So do you get your money's worth out of this particular gun? I would say to that, I would say yes. Now, over to the X5. Granted, this gun is considerably more expensive. But again, is this an upgrade over your standard 226, your SIG P226, or even their M11, right? Abso-friggin-lutely, this is an upgrade between this trigger, between the barrel itself, between just the way this thing just the fit and the function of this particular gun, I think it's an upgrade. Are you getting $2,300 worth of firearm with the X5 Classic here? And I gotta say yes. You know, just how it feels, how it handles, how it looks. It's an expensive gun, but it runs like an expensive gun. So I say all that to say point blank that the value for the money is basically a wash. They both are, you get a lot with both guns for the money that you're spending. So I give them a point in both categories. So, and now with that out of the way, let's tally up the score and close this thing out. Okay, to sum things up, in terms of features, the 226X5 gets the point in features. It also gets the point in the areas of ammo capacity, ergonomics, and portability. Now, the 92X Performance gets the point in shootability and reliability, as well as they both get a point actually for reliability. They both get a point for disassembly and aftermarket support. The 92X Performance gets the point for the MSRP, and they both get a point for the value for the money, bringing us to a grand total of 8 for the 226X5 and 6 for the 92X Performance, making the SIG 226X5 the winner of this versus. And we're back. So overall, I think there was some pretty interesting verses. The guns are very evenly matched, like in terms of the feature set that you get, how they feel in the hand, both also just holding it in hand and actually running the guns on the shooting range. The triggers they both have great triggers. You know, there's a lot to like about both of these particular guns. Now, I will say that the shootability part of the versus was a little, actually quite surprising to me. I say that because just how much the ergonomics of the 226X5, how much better they feel to me versus the Beretta. Not to say the Beretta is bad, but the 226X5 ergonomics just fit better, and that's why it actually got the point in that category. Not only that, it also has a lighter trigger pull and a single action only. And even with those things, I found myself at times throwing a couple shots, which would just, I don't know what it is. I just whiffed. I just whiffed a couple of those shots, and I have to be fair and give it to the Beretta. Even though the X5 Classic to me is softer shooting and feels better in the hand, I was technically better with the 92X. So I had to give it that. But overall, I think the versus was pretty much fair. Now, all right, so the operator's choice. So if I had to pick one of these particular guns, which one would I pick? I want to caveat that by saying, like, all right, for example, if I'm going to compete in a competition tomorrow, between the two, which one am I picking up? Between these two, the one that I would pick up to run a competition tomorrow would be the 226X5 Classic. Why? Simply put, like I said, the ergonomics of this particular handgun and the trigger, to me, matters a whole lot, especially if you're running competition. I mean, that's basically your interface with the gun right there. Even though, like I said, I was a better shot with the Beretta, this just feels better to me. And I'm a Beretta fan. I love Berettas. Even so, on this one, I gotta go with the 226X5 Classic. So I want to leave it there, y'all. What did y'all think about this versus? Leave it down in the comments. Let's get this discussion popping. Do you like the Beretta 92X Performance? Do you have one? Are you thinking about getting one? What about the 226X5? Do you have a SIG 226X5? Are you thinking about getting one of those? Let me know. Let's talk about it, all right? So, as always, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And this is your big homie, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.